Okay, just to give you an idea about the policy document and how it was developed, let me take you through very briefly the Health Master Plan 2007 to 16 document, how it was prepared. So it was supported by uh, JICA to formulate a master plan for health sector in the country to strengthen and improve the health system for meeting the new and complex demands and challenges in the next 10 years. So the process was to enhance the planning capacity of the counterparts. There were some experts from Japan also who came and worked with us, and it was a participatory approach involving all the stakeholders, and also they ensured that it was not what their plan, it was our plan, Sri Lankan plan, ownership building. So those are the two key factors. Participatory approach. In any policy, this is very important now. Participatory approach involving this. That was one of the factors. The 97 policy failed because all the stakeholders were not properly engaged in the process. So all the people who have a stake in it should be involved in developing a policy. So the study was organized from the government of Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Health, and there was a team. And from the JICA, there was another team working with them. There was an advisory committee and a steering committee chaired by the Secretary of Health. So this was the Sri Lankan side of the process, and this was the Japan side of the process. So they helped us. We didn't have the capacity, though they helped us in doing that. And there were several working groups on different aspects working together, set up to do this. So this was how the whole policy master plan process was. So the 8 working groups on different aspects of healthcare was set up, and the coordinating committee, and so this is how it was planned over 2 years. So any health system, you need to have a policy, and that is based on we learned the determinants of health policy, the demand, the need for care, health needs of the people, and also the satisfaction of the. We have to take the demand side into account. We can't do it on what we want. We must look at what the people want. So that is very important in. Then we have to look at on the supply side. What are the health services needed, how it is delivered and managed, and the human resources. And also, to support this, there must be some sustainable financing mechanism also in place. So you have to ensure that enough funds will be allocated and planned to come in the future. And cutting across all this is the need for a health information system. Right. We need a good health information system. Right. So these various working groups met and discussed and prepared all this documentation. And where we didn't have evidence, what we did was we commissioned some research studies. We advertised, and various people, study groups took up, and they did research about the knowledge, attitudes, and papers, practices. We didn't have any data, concrete data, what people think. So there's such where we did have data, we commissioned research studies and got people to do research and give us the findings. Then they were given to the working groups. Okay, these are the evidence that was generated from this occasion where those findings were reported. Then these various stakeholder groups were convened, and discussed with them the broad strategies and the situation with the provincial director, deputy provincial directors, other category with the senior officials of the ministry, and with various international agencies. Also, we discussed with the World Bank. So, a lot of stakeholder meetings were this thing, and finally, with all their views, everything was put down in writing by a group of people who put it down using right. So, and then the starting point was based on the needs. We developed what is called a strategic framework for health. So at the center we have this as actions, the community, the health management, giving the leadership, the resources, and health finances. These are the basic components of any health system. You need to have those delivery system services, and how you deliver an involvement of the community in the process, and how it is managed, the leadership, stewardship is given, governance, and the human resource and the financing aspects. So based on that, master plan was developed. It is in 3 volumes. Volume 1, summary, and Volume 2, the core document and the program profile. Detailed programs for each function. So, and there were 3 other documents giving the supporting situation analysis, various research that was done, and GIS mapping was done. That's also compiled as a separate document. So then it was implemented. This is how it was implemented, platform building and so forth. That is very briefly about the master plan. Then you have now got a broad idea about very basic knowledge about health policies. You know, definition, what do you understand by a policy. Then you know what are the different types of policies, how to classify them based on explicit, implicit, and other level of policy. Then you learned about what determines health policies, what are the goals, what do we expect from policy. Then you are now knowledgeable about the various stages of developing a policy. And also you learned about the historical development, how at different times health policies were developed in Sri Lanka, and you have got a snapshot of the current policy, which is on the website, posted later. Then now let us look at how these policies implications in running health services. Your course program is basically on health administration. So we'll see the relationships, how health policies are related to administration, especially hospital administration. Health policy and its significance to hospital administration. So we will be describing the health policy and the comparison with regional health policies. I have a separate presentation on that. Importance of health policy for hospital administration and its effects in the service industry. How does these policies affect the industry, the health services? What is a hospital? There is no perfect definition of hospital as such, but it is envisaged that formal institutions developed by the Society for Patient Care, that is a very basic thing, some institution built to care for the patients. In simple terms, hospital is an institution where sick and the injured patients are treated as inpatients, where you have inpatient care. The WHO defines hospital as an integral part of social and medical organization. It is an integral part of social and medical organization. The functions of which are to provide the population complete health care, both curative and preventive, with outpatient services, reaching out to the family in its own environment, and also to carry out training of health workers and biosocial research. So many things a hospital is supposed to do. If you summarize, what are the basic functions of a hospital? What do you do in a hospital? Broad functions. Especially, obviously, the patient care. Is that the only thing happening in hospitals? What else happens in hospital other than patient care? What are the other things a hospital should be doing? Yeah, prevention. Oh, yeah, prevention of diseases. The hospital is not only a curative effect; it should educate the people and so prevent and provide preventive services also. That is like banning immunization can be provided in the hospital. So preventive services.
And infection.
Yeah, infection control is part of the those patient care process. So what else? Yes, involving the community, that is also important function. You have to work with the community. That is important aspect of the hospital. Hospital can't stand on alone. That we work with the people, patient, one patient again, one of the community again. Then what else? What are the other responsibilities? Yes, administration is a major function running the services. Those are main functions of a hospital. What are the yeah, diagnostics and various supporting services are there in the hospital. Radiological diagnostic, laboratory services, pharmaceutical. Various supporting services are called supporting services. What are the other main responsibilities? Yeah. Education, yeah, we discussed that under prevention and promotion, health promotion and prevention. Under that, education. Yeah, those are main supporting services, services, cleaning services, all that are supporting services. What are the other responsibilities of hospital? Those are all for patient care, right? Yeah, which is also services. Yeah, promotion, all that services. Is it only providing services, preventive and curative services? What is the hospital?
Information.
Yes, information needed in all those of use. Training people, right, is part of the responsibility of hospital. There are people who come for training purposes. Volunteers, some hospitals are training doctors, some are nurses, like that. So the hospital has a responsibility to train people as a training. That is another. So providing services, training and development of staff is another area. But it's like only main responsibilities. Our hospitals are not doing much, but it should be a responsibility. What is that? Research, yes. Hospitals should do research. That's also about this particular. That's another major responsible area. So we can identify broad areas of a hospital, hospital functions. So you have patient care. To do patient care, you have all these services, what we mentioned, preventive services, curative services, supporting laboratory, waste disposal, laboratory, all that services, pharmaceutical. That is patient care, one responsibility. Then training is another major responsibility of a hospital. Health education or health promotion, and then research. So those are the four major responsibilities or functions of a hospital. Right? When you look at, we think only about the patient care, but the hospital has a responsibility in four broad areas of functions, including training and research and education. So it is an organization, a hospital is a multifaceted organization comprising many committees, departments, type of personnel and services. It's wide range, we have divided into various sections. It requires highly trained employees, efficient systems and controls, necessary supplies, adequate equipment and facilities, and of course, physicians and patients. It is a business as well as a caring, people-oriented institution. And it has a similar structure and hierarchy of authority as any large business. It has a hierarchy, it has its own structure. We'll be looking at the different structure next day. So then we can classify hospitals. How can we classify hospitals? What is the basic classification? You have heard of all the hospitals. Now we know what a hospital is, broad functions of hospital. How can we classify those hospitals? We can divide the hospital into different types. What are the broad? Yeah. Yeah, government versus private. Very broad categories here. Clearly, we can divide that into government hospital or state-owned hospital and private hospital. That is based on the ownership. We can divide on what else. Yeah. Yeah, but depending on the level of care that you are providing, you can divide the hospital into primary care hospital, secondary care hospital, tertiary care hospital. That's another way of classifying. Right? One way is public-private, other one is the level of between the level of pre-classified hospitals. Anything else? Any other classification? Yes, depending on the governance structure, whether they are belonging to the central government or the provincial government. That's another classification. Any other classification? Yeah, by type of speciality that they are practicing. We call specialized hospital, whether it can be cancer hospital, maternity hospital, eye hospital, we have a mental hospital, depending on the specialty. So we can categorize hospitals into that. That's another classification. Yes, depending on whether there is teaching happening, you can classify as speaking and non-speaking hospitals. Any other questions? That's another one important classification. Right? Think of Sri Lanka, the nature of public private. Yeah, those are different levels. The names are given by the level of services, primary care, secondary care, or tertiary care. Yeah. Yes, by type of system that we practice. We can divide into Western hospital, which are practicing Western hospital, we can Ayurveda hospital, we classify them, or indigenous practicing now, or alternative medicine, like that. By homeopathic hospitals, we have two. So by type of medicine that we practice also we can do it. So there are different ways of classifying hospitals. By the system wise, Western system or the indigenous systems or traditional systems of medicine, there are hospitals. Then by ownership, public or private, speciality, we mentioned that. By function level, at primary, secondary, tertiary, and sometimes by type or the size of the hospital, you can classify clinic. So various classifications are there for hospitals. Right? So then we can classify according to objectives of their hospitals. Teaching and research hospital, we have a category called teaching hospitals. We have general hospitals, special hospitals like that. So we can classify them accordingly. On the basis of ownership, we classify the government hospital. Some are semi-government, partly private, partly public, like the Javatalapura. Voluntary agencies hospitals, run by the thing, then they are private or charitable hospitals. So by ownership, you can classify. According to the system of medicine practice that we listed, allopathic hospital, Ayurvedic hospitals, homeopathic hospital, Unani hospitals, or any other systems. Then according to size, we have classified teaching hospital, district general hospital, divisional hospitals, primary medical care, etc. So what are the main components of our hospital system? We have various different services. One is the various line services, then we have the staff services, and then the supportive or the auxiliary services. We can broadly divide the services into. Then what do you mean by administration? What do you mean by administration? What is administration? What do you mean by the word administration? And then what do you mean by management? Is it the same or two different terms? Administration and management. People mix up these two very frequently. What is management? Management is what you planning, and we learned the various basic concept of planning, implementation, and operation. Management is getting things done through and with people. Management is doing the right things right. There are various management is deciding what's to be done and getting it done. Management is a process. It's a process what we do. Management process where we use what do we use in management? Process, what do we use in the process? Yeah. What do we use in management? What are the main things we use? We can classify basically. What are the things we need to manage? What do we need? Yeah. We need human people, trained people. We need that is human resources. Is that enough? If people we have, trained people we can run a hospital, we can manage it. Yeah, we need money, finances, financial resources, and then we need physical resources like equipment, drugs, buildings, all that. So these are the three main resources: human resources, financial resources. So management is a process where you use these resources. How? Anybody can use the resources. People use the resources. But the important is, they have to be used efficiently and efficiently, getting the maximum result with less amount of resources, get the maximum, and also getting the results effectively. For what? What do we do management? To achieve some good set of goals. So management is a process where we use human, physical, and financial resources efficiently and effectively, not just using them. Anybody can use them. What the important thing is efficiently. We have to use them efficiently and effectively in a purposeful way. In a purposeful way. We have to use them in a purposeful way. Some people just spend the money we have to use them in a purposeful way to achieve some goals and objectives. That is management. Then you say the administration is a different word. Some people use it interchange. Some people now, what do you call the health managers in Sri Lanka? Yes, that is your post health administration. They call the managers are called medical administrators. In US, UK, what do they call? They don't call health administrators, medical administrators. What do they call? They call health managers or health executives. In US, they call medical executives. In your hospitals, private sector. It's not private sector. So what is your real, the course is medical and health administration. See, the correct terminology. Are you learning that is? So what is there? So is there a difference between management and administration? So you define what management is. Now try to define what is that, what administration is. What is administration? What does the administrator do? Okay, you have a MOS, go to the hospital, if you are the hospital or say the MOS office, you go to your private hospital, you go to your office, head of the institution, right? What are things they do? Basically,
Coordinate.
yeah. What do they do? Real, if you think of a day, average day, morning when you go to the office, what do they do? First thing. Go and draw the red line, sign, attendance register, open the mail, and approve, leave. What are those? What do you do? Yeah, those are administrative what that means. What are you doing by doing? What do you do? What is that? What are you? Yeah, you apply the rules and regulations, and according to that you do various procedures. So administration is that you based on you carry out various functions based on the various rules and ensure that you carry out things according to the rules and regulations of that institution.
Isn't it comes under control and
Yes, so that means then management means including that. So administration, if you really take only that, ensure that these things are done. But management is a broader concept where that is only part of the administration is only part of it. But you have to do more control and coordination, everything comes with that. Planning, organizing, right now, all that is management or management point of view, evaluation, control. So now you see the difference between the administration, but still people have got so used to the word administration, they don't want to give up that. Even it was suggested for the ministry also, but they stick to the terminology medical administration. Few countries do that, even so they have a professional, what you call it, college of medical administrators of Sri Lanka. Australia also have a Royal College of Social Medical Administrators of Australia. Royal Australasian Bangkok Medical Administrator. Royal Australasian College of Medical Administrators. They also use the word administrator. Then we discussed this. What is the term, correct terminology? But ideally, so but some countries use other terminology. In US, if you say you are a medical administrator, they refer to a clerk or somebody in our country who prepare those documents and things like that. There they use the word medical executive. So medical director, so like that. So you understand the terminology, but although they call it medical administrator, they refer to the broader in a broader sense. So those are the broad process of achieving defined goals at a defined time through the guidance, leadership, and control of the efforts of a group of individuals and the efficient utilization of non-human resources, bearing in mind adequate speed and economy to utmost possible level. Administration is the art and science of guidance, leadership, and control of the efforts of a group of individuals towards some. Here also giving a more broader sense of like, so it is like management. In that context, this administration is, even your course is all called health administration is looking broadly at all management aspects. Pure administration is only to ensure that all the rules and regulations are implemented in terms of. So we discussed this policy, what a policy is, and health policy is a set of courses of action intended to achieve health objectives of a group or society. Then we learned about the types of policies: explicit policy, implicit policy, and the three levels of policies: the national policies, the managerial policies, and the operational policies. And then we learned about the determinants of health policy: demand for healthcare, political pressure, national priorities, changing socio-economic, other international agencies' priorities. And then we learned about the basic goals of a policy, what we expect from a policy: ensure fairness or equity, allocative efficiency, technical efficiency, community satisfaction, and quality of care. And we learned what a policy instrument is, some examples. Then we learned about the policy process, then about the master plan, and then in 2003 there was some changes in the nomenclature, classification of hospitals in Sri Lanka, which was called the recategorization of hospitals. I will next presentation, I will go to the recategorization of hospitals. Then we discuss about various other systems that help in this thing. There are various, for various subjects, various procedures, medication administration, like that, infection control, various procedures identified. Let me at this point of time discuss about this recategorization of hospitals. In 2003, before 2003, what were the types of hospitals that we had in Sri Lanka? General hospital was there, It was later called the National Hospital. It was called the General Hospitals. Before the district hospitals, base hospitals. Next level was the base hospitals. We had the teaching hospitals, general hospitals, or the provincial hospitals. We had the base hospitals. Then we had district hospitals. Then rural hospitals, peripheral units. There was another category called peripheral units, and then the central dispensaries and the medical. Like there were, and also in addition to that, there were specialized hospitals, like the cancer hospital, mental hospitals. So there were, really speaking, 13 types of hospitals in Sri Lanka. So it was too much, and we need the need. Why this categorization is to have a comprehensive plan for the development of hospitals, taking about considering the resource availability and all that. Right. So it was identify minimum acceptable facilities for each category and develop this. So this was the process that was adopted. So the basis for the development. This was the original one, the National Hospital, the teaching hospitals, general hospitals, base hospitals, district hospitals, peripheral units, rural hospitals, CD and MH. Separately CDs, separately maternity homes, and BD as the branch dispensaries. They once a week the officer goes to a place and conduct that is called a branch. Take the medicine, everything, conducts and comes back to base. Those, and also there were visiting station. They go and visit and conduct a clinic for outpatient services. So these were and in addition to that there were special hospitals. So this was the categorization earlier. Now what in the 2003 recategorization, these were recategorized into one category. So at the provincial level, we had the recategorization was based on the level of administration, means the administrative structure of the government. So the highest at the national level we have the national whole country, then we have the provincial governments. So at the provincial level, the biggest hospital we have is a teaching hospital, and all provinces don't have a teaching hospital because there are no medical schools in those areas. Therefore, there is no teaching hospital. But it is unfair. Our objective policy is to equity fairness. So why for some provincial people living in some provinces you give general hospital care? Some provinces they have all the specialties and they have a teaching hospital. Very unfair. So then a decision was made. We can't have teaching hospitals in all provinces. One day it will happen, but we can't have now. Therefore, they put each province should have, the policy was, any province should have a teaching hospital. If they don't have a medical school, they will not have a teaching hospital, but they will have a provincial hospital that will have the same services as a teaching hospital. All the subspecialties are also there. So based on that, they developed that. Now, for example, Ranthapura, there's no medical school. One is coming on. So that is not designated as a teaching hospital. It is a provincial hospital. It is the biggest hospital in the Sabaragaon province. So, but it has all the specialties like a teaching hospital. So that is the highest level of hospital. Teaching or we can't have in all the provinces. Therefore, we have a provincial hospital with same facilities. Then the next administrative level is the district. Earlier, what we call the district hospital is a small hospital. It's a misnomer. Those days, the district hospital doesn't serve a district. It's a small population. It's about 150 beds. It's a misnomer. So therefore, at the district level, what is the hospital that was serving the district? Base hospital. Base hospital really serving the district. In all the district, they have a 2 or 3 base hospitals. You take any district, you take Palikkad district, what are the base hospitals? Palikkad or what are the 2 base hospitals? You take Amba district, there are 3 base hospitals. One, Negombo, Mathupitivala. Right, that's right. So earlier the base wrong name was given base hospital. Why? How does this name base hospital came? It's a wrong misnomer. They are serving a district, but how did this base hospital, the name base hospital came? Anybody knows? Where do we talk of base? Yes. Military. Army called they have a military base. Right. At that time, when the Sri Lanka was under British, they had the military bases in different parts of the country. And they wanted to provide health care to their own soldiers. So they set up base hospitals close to the military base. That's how this name base hospital came. It's wrong completely. So now we have given up that name. So district level, out of the 2 or 3 base hospitals, one was identified, which is in the center and most developed. One was identified and it was elevated to the position of district general hospital. Because in the 1997, policy task force came up with that recommendation. Each district should have a district general hospital, good hospital with all the facilities, with at least minimum 2 units of each specialty. Right. Under that policy, one hospital of 2 or 3 of the base hospitals, one was selected in each district and was developed toward district general hospital. Other 1 or 2 base hospitals remained as within ground grade. They remained as district base hospitals. So we have at the district level, district general hospital and district base hospital. Only one district general hospital for each district. So each district has now in the country as a district general hospital. Others remained as district base hospitals. But for administrative purposes, they have divided further into category A, category B, category C because they were at different levels, the staffing, all that. So that will go off after some time. Then what is the next level of administration? What is the next level of administration? Yeah? Divisional level. Right. Now, what were the hospitals earlier at the divisional level? District hospitals, earlier district hospitals, rural hospitals, peripheral units, those are the hospitals with inpatient care at the district, the divisional, serving about 50,000 people. So those were all those three district hospital peripheral units with about 20 beds to 180 beds on 200 beds. Those are small hospitals were all categorized. They were serving a division, was 56,000 or 80,000 population. So they were redesignated as divisional hospitals. Divisional hospital. Now we don't hear the word peripheral unit, rural hospital. Now we don't hear. They are all called divisional hospital. Again, depending on some differences, they have categorized into divisional hospital type A, type B, and type C. It will go off after some time. All will be equal. So divisional level. Then what is the next level? After the division, what is the administrative unit? At the community level. Community level. What was left now after the recategorization. We came up to the rural hospitals. There are central dispensaries, maternity homes. Those central dispensaries were manned by whom? In the past, it was the AMPs or the RMPs. Now, no more AMPs are trained. All have been now, all these central dispensaries are now appointed medical officers. Providing only outpatient. Then the question comes up, why are we going to have a medical officer and only treat some OPD patients? After all the training, in those places you can't even suture a wound. In emergency you can't handle that. You can't even drip people. Now, but we have a trained person to do that. So then we changed the name of the central dispensaries and maternity homes and call them primary medical care units. Primary medical care. Primary because it is at the village level. Medical because we have a medical officer there. Providing care, primary care. PDs and then all the converted to primary medical care units. And they provide not only outpatient care, even emergency care, just basic emergency care. So this is the new recategorized structure of the health system. So these are the functions of a primary care unit, primary medical care unit. Outpatient care, limited emergency care, facility for stabilization of patients before referring to secondary or tertiary care medical institution, facilities for a polyclinic including antenatal and postnatal, family planning, child health, and women. Medical officer is there, he can conduct these things. Then divisional hospital, what are the main functions, what are the basic functions? The divisional hospital are identified. Then what are the district-based hospital, what are the functions, how many units each, these are the facilities, and then the district general hospital. So, hope you got an idea about the current. The next day we will be discussing the total health organization structure. This recategorization was some policy changes were made. I thought to report. Any questions or comments? Let me look at the policy process in a different angle. In this, we will look at this toolkit, how basic, another way of looking at the policy process, how the policies are developed. And then I was stressing the importance of involving the stakeholders in this process. It is very important in involving the stakeholders in this process. And then how it is being implemented, the guidelines, the instruments, and then also this thing. We will be not be doing it. We'll be doing strategic management in the next another module. So the health policy reforms is a political process and a health sector reform. Policy champions are proactively promote policy reforms, public support the policies and foster the policy. So those are called policy champions. They advocate these things. So, to understand the policy process, there are 5 technically driven stages of the process, which generally occur in the following order. In the policy process, there are 2 stages. Firstly, the politically driven stage, this part. This one, technically. So, policy changes, that's what we said in the determinants of policies. One factor was the political influence. They are the people who decide, they are the people who govern the country. So, once advocate is done about the need for policy, they make a decision, okay, we'll go ahead and have a. Once they do it, they can't develop the policies. They don't have the technical knowledge to develop a policy. They have only the power. So they can't develop the policy. Once they decide, we need technical people. So this part is process, policy development part. Process is technical. So we have a political part and a technically driven part in the policy process. So technical driven part, we have 5 stages. Policy, first step is that process, formation, formulation, and formalization. That is formulation, legitimization is the formalization. So the first step is that you have to build it up, then mix it and develop the policy and then get it approved. Formation, formulation, and formalization. Once you develop that, next step is called constituency building. What do you mean by constituency building? Constituency building is this getting the support of all the people. You can't just put a policy into practice. That's why we need to involve all the stakeholders when you are developing the policy, not after developing and then. That's what happened to the 97 task force report. They didn't involve all the stakeholders. Some trade unions were not invited. They said, and to finalize, they called them to the parliament and gave a copy of the document. Trade unions said, yeah, we are seeing this for the first time. We need to study this. We can't approve it. So they didn't agree. That was a failure. So that's why it is important to building the constituency. You have to discuss with all the stakeholders, educate them what the purpose of this thing. This happened in day-to-day life also. Now, can remember a few years ago in Slave Island, there are a lot of shanty areas. They wanted to put up apartments for those people. They decided that they started asking people, went and asked people to more. Some police were taking posts also. They protested. They didn't move on. Because dragging on and they couldn't get rid of the people. They said, no, we have for us. Then they started a dialogue with those people. They explained to them, this is the Colombo in this area, very valuable. They have a plan to make it a commercial capital and then investments and then living land also. And for the country benefit you have to give up. But they said we will be giving you temporary accommodation. Once the flats are built, every one of you will be given a flat. So they explained and they realized that there's something in that. They promised that they thought they will be thrown out and then they don't have a place, but they assured that they will be given temporary accommodation somewhere else. Once the flats come, everyone is families and they agreed and they moved out without any trouble. Beginning, they could get rid of this. When the roads are widened also, they say, suddenly they go and the police start removing the. Then they protest roads and all. But if you educate them, that is stakeholder consultation, the policy decision, discuss with them about when they are planning the policy, then they will support you. That is the importance of bringing the stakeholders together. So that is what is called constituency building. So before implementing, you have to educate the people about the policy. Besides that, we can see some protests about when various major policy decisions are made and various projects are started. There are a lot of protests. So we need to ensure constituency building, educate everybody about the policy, the purpose, the benefits of all. Then you need to mobilize resources. No point having a good policy unless you don't have resources to implement. So you have to see that you, before implementing, you mobilize, ensure that you have the financial and other resource support. So that is also important step in the policy implementation, resource mobilization. Then you need to have a plan, implementation design and an organization structure, how you are going to implement that policy. There must be a plan. You just have a policy and then just... So most of the policies have an implementation plan also with the policy. And then you need to have a mechanism to find out whether they are on the correct track, monitoring and evaluation, impact monitoring, progress monitoring mechanism also have to be built to see whether the policy is properly implemented. So these are the main technique. These are all technically driven stages of a policy process. How do you start a policy process? I said it starts as a political issue. We identify that we need to do something about that. Then the policymakers decide that we need to have a policy. And then they prepare an agenda. But they don't spell out how you are going to develop and this. So, two stages, politically dominated. The upper part, identifying the issue and deciding that we need to have a policy. But they don't have the capacity technical capacity to develop a policy. So this part is technical people who know technically about the policy process and the subjects has to get involved in this process. So where does the policy making starts? What is the first step? When we start to have a policy, what is the first? Yes, you have to identify some issue. You have to identify an issue or a problem. There's a problem, only then we do if there's a problem, then we have to do something about it. So if we need necessary, we need to have a policy about that. So first step is you have to identify an issue. Right? I gave some examples. What are the examples? Non-communicable diseases are in recent times increasing. Earlier we need to have a policy about non-communicable diseases. It was coming up, it was increasing. A lot of people dying of heart disease, diabetes, strokes, and ovarian cancer. So therefore, it's an issue what I identified, then we develop a policy to control and implementing the policy. Similarly, migrant health workers, migration health policy, because there were a lot of issues with regard to migrant people coming in, going out. To address that issue, we need some guidelines, broad principles. So, a policy, migrant health policy, accident and emergency policy. So, these are the things that have come up recently. Now, last year, another policy came, elderly care policy. Old people are increasing, but we don't have a policy about it. We need that. The issue was identified and the policy. So, like that, policies are being developed for various issues. So it starts with identifying an issue, right? Then, based on that issue, you need to set up an agenda. Okay, we are going to set up we are going to do this and develop a policy based on this. And then a decision has to be made that we are going to have a policy. So the decision makers, so that part is politically dominated. They have to decide. But they can't develop the policy. They don't have the politically people can't have developed the policy because they don't have the expertise. So it needs some technical expertise. So therefore, the next stage is the technically led part of the policy. The 5 stages I mentioned. First, you have to formalize, and formulate and legitimize or formalize. After that, you have to build constituency, educate all the people about the policy. Then you need to mobilize resources. Then you prepare a design, implement a design, now organize a structure to put that policy into action. And then after you implement, you do monitoring of progress and impact. Next important aspect is this policy process is this stakeholder analysis. It will take about 30-40 minutes. So we'll take the lunch break now and then do the stakeholder analysis. Then in the afternoon, I will discuss about the stakeholder analysis and also some examples globally to answer the question, does policy work? Some examples where policies have been developed, how we have got the results. So international examples, health sector policies which have worked well and we got results.